It is one of the most basic ways that we relate and show care for each other and affection. It's one of the most kind of innate human things is like to bring sustenance, to share that. Like that is like an inherently human thing to do is to share food.
Would you eat a meal prepared by someone with HIV? Only half of Canadians recently surveyed said yes, which is why Toronto's Casey House is launching a new project to help fight the stigma.
It's a one-of-a-kind restaurant popping up in Toronto this week where all the chefs have something in common beyond their passion for food. They also all have HIV.
I was diagnosed in 1985.
I just had my 10-year AIDS-versary.
So I've been living with HIV for around 38 years.
I was diagnosed in 1994.
I was diagnosed in 2003, and I was 25 then.
I was first diagnosed about 25 years ago.
And I got the result May 1st, 2012.
I can only guesstimate when I was actually infected. It was probably in the early 80s.
I was diagnosed in 1990.
I am 24 years old, and I've been living with HIV for 24 years.
Okay, so we're gonna set up some stations right now. Chef, how many cutting boards do you have on your side over there? I knew what the Casey House was already. They basically got into what their idea was, what they wanted to create, which was this HIV positive pop-up eatery. They were like, basically, we want you to be the chef to kind of help lead that team. I'm most nervous of, like, if you've never done like a dinner service, it can be overwhelming.
I'll show you how to cut the potatoes.
Today is our first day. It's our first kind of, not prep day, more of a kitchen 101, if you want to call it that. So much of the food industry, whether it's this city or North America, it's all about us and building our egos and all that crap. And it's like, this is not about us at all. In fact, it's about these 14 chefs, because yeah, they're putting themselves out there.
I was 22 years old. The message from the physician was there's no medications.
30 years ago, you were basically told to quit your job, do your will. Everybody was dying.
I think everybody was really pretty much afraid to talk about their HIV status. Certainly, I didn't talk about it while I was working because I was afraid I would lose my job.
It was personally very difficult. Being a physician, eventually it took me away from family practice where I was afraid that people would actually judge me and not come to see me for fear of being touched by someone with HIV.
It was a very scary place. Not only was the sickness scary, but the fact that once you got sick, nobody wanted to help you. Everyone was afraid. So that was a really scary time.
There are two profound changes. I mean, the obvious one is the change in our knowledge about the disease and how to treat it.
When the antiretrovirals finally came out, many of us didn't trust it, including me. I waited until I got sick in 1998 before I went on the antiretrovirals, just because I've seen so many people try so many things and everyone was dying anyway. I just didn't believe it.
Today, fortunately, with a lot of medication, it's a different time when people, at least if they do become infected, can actually get on medication and do very, very well.
The other thing that's changed is kind of the landscape of the populations that are now experiencing this disease. Now we really see this in every part of our society, and every population, every age group.
Wow. It's heavy.
I am 24 years old and I've been living with HIV for 24 years. My dad was cheating on my mother. She did end up leaving him and bringing me and my older sister to Canada. When I was about 2 years old, I started to get very sick, and eventually they said, we're gonna test all three of you. Me, my sister, and my mom were HIV. They called my mom and said, you're HIV positive, and your youngest daughter, Maluba, is also HIV positive. My mom, she said, we have secrets in this family, and there's secrets that you don't tell the rest of the world. In 2012, my mom passed away. I was 19 at the time, and that was just devastating because she was really the only person I really could talk to about HIV. It was something that didn't seem real. Disclosing online that I was HIV positive, I remember I was so nervous to tell one person, just tell one friend. So it felt like it was in my control to be able to put it online and tell everybody at once. Hi, my name is Maluba. I'm 21 years old. I'm a student currently taking journalism. I'm a Gemini. I'm a lot of things. And I'm also HIV positive. Sorry, I can't believe I just said that, and I've never really disclosed before, so I'm a little nervous. I feel like I'm talking to nobody and a million people all at once. When I posted that video, there was no sense of doubt in me. There was such an amount of support, a large amount of support that I got. However, there were still some negative comments that I got from random people that said I should just go die, that's a gay disease, that's a black disease. And then there are even a few people in my life on my personal Facebook that just suddenly deleted me. But that's when I had to come back to it and say, do I really want these people in my life?
I believe that there are a lot of things we discriminate against people for that we know are not politically correct to discriminate against them for. But we know that people do. We know that poverty creates discrimination. We know that people of different racial and religious backgrounds from us, whatever they are, create discrimination. But we're not supposed to do that. And I think HIV in some cases became a surrogate for a lot of other people's other biases.
HIV has always impacted, communities that don't belong to the dominant mainstream society. First it was, gay white man in North America, right? In Canada, HIV mostly impacts indigenous communities, people who use substances, sex workers, racialized communities as well, especially the African, Black, Caribbean community. So I think HIV is tied into people who are marginalized differently.
There's certainly been a trail of stigma that follows you every day. It doesn't really matter where you are and under what circumstances.
As a gay man, I've always been surprised about the internalized stigma of other gay men. HIV is so entangled with our identity, so we are our worst critics and sometimes our worst enemies. That is the stigma that has always hurt the most to me.
When you might meet people online, you have a conversation, you might be texting them back and forth, and then all of a sudden the question comes up about HIV status. They ask or you volunteer the information and the conversation will cut stone dead. And that is really hard on the human spirit.
As much as we think we are educating everybody, I don't think we're educating everybody enough. My nephew brought over his girlfriend last week and I shook her hand. And when she left, she asked my nephew, can I get AIDS from shaking Uncle Al's hand?
I had a moment when I had a big sister, big brother, a mentor, and when I spent my first time with her alone and her husband, and I went over to their house, we had a barbecue, and she ate off of glass plates and glasses and made me eat off of paper plates and paper cups. I was 7 years old, and she was the adult in my life.
Why would a human being treat another human being that way? And And then one day the coin finally dropped. It's not just ignorance, it's fear. These people are terrified of what they think HIV is. As people become more informed and aware and educated about it, that's the key at the bottom of all of this.
If you ever want to really connect with someone, you feed them, right? Like that's the best way to get someone to maybe listen to you a little better. The conversation it'll elicit is far greater than any one single meal.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to June's. The world's very first HIV positive eatery. I am so thrilled all of you joined us this evening. You know, food is very personal, but it gives us a really wonderful opportunity to sit down, share a meal, break bread, and smash stigma. Thank you all for joining us here tonight, and I hope to meet every one of you over the course of the meal. Thank you very much.
My experience of dealing with stigma has never been really external. It's always been internal. It's always been what I think people might think.
There's a lot of people in my life that that aren't comfortable and are still not willing to be out about their status. There are so many people that I know that are so fearful of people knowing.
I thought that a lot of people wouldn't like to hear about this, and I was worried about some of the comments I would get. And it's been the opposite. So at 60, I'm not HIV, I'm living with it, and I want to start a life.
One of the benefits of this project is the family-style meal. It's inherently conversational, so it really engenders this spirit of communication and community. It's not just the sharing of food, but it's the kind of community that happens in the preparing of food.
I think I always thought that my life was decided for me, what it was going to be, what it was going to look like, and maybe there are people out there that actually understand me or are willing to listen. HIV is not the one thing that defines me.
If people living with HIV could be seen as anyone else, you know, we all have families, and if people could think of us like that, it doesn't mean we're all perfectly good. We're just people, and that's what this is about. It's not just about HIV. Above all, it's about love.
I love you guys. You're beautiful. Gorgeous. All right, we're gonna mic you.